All right, guys, we are live on the air, and I think we're going to have a big show tonight. Obviously, I'm going solo. I'm in the office studio, and Buddy Sanji will be back with me next week for TigerBait Live next Wednesday night. I'm pretty sure we'll be doing it again next Wednesday night. Not a whole lot of things going up against us. LSU baseball's playing on Tuesday nights, and of course, a weekend series. They lose a second Tuesday in a row to an in-state school, Nicholls State, last night. A lot of people were upset about that one. We can talk about that if you want to. Still injury bug plaguing this LSU baseball team. We'll have Jay Johnson tomorrow, waiting to find out what time we're going to get him. I'm assuming we're going to have Jay Johnson and players. We can talk more spring football game. Got a lot to on my mind after watching that one. I have to say that spring games are typically the worst sporting event of the year, the most boring, I should say. And I actually enjoyed that one, not just because the weather was great, but because there were some big plays despite all the missing pieces. Quarterbacks had a great day. Wide receivers had some big days. And there were some guys out there that I think a lot of LSU fans have a reason to be excited about this upcoming football season that I think might have made a name for themselves. And football recruiting. Obviously, that was a big recruiting weekend. Deshaun McBride went down Saturday evening, safety from Denham Springs, and hell of an athlete. And that's a really, really nice pickup for LSU. I think they're really looking really good with all the state prospects. You're not looking at any of these guys on the board this year like last year, where you're wondering if how many of the top 10 are going to get away. Is this a year where almost none get away? It could very well be. It's Brian Kelly and his staff are doing an excellent job. And of course, today, Tre'Dez Green, one of the top 2 or 3 tight ends nationally, number 1 tight end in the state of Louisiana, number 1 basketball prospect in the state of Louisiana, is going to be given an opportunity to play 2 sports at LSU. What is the likelihood of him being able to pull that off? Guys like me of a certain age who recall and can look back and say, who's done it lately? Unless you guys can remember somebody I can't, you've got to go all the way back to Charlie Ward. And I went and looked him up last night. Charlie Ward is now 52 years old. And he was the last guy, quarterback for Florida State, obviously, played guard for the Seminoles. And I think he's the last guy that actually did it and did it at a decent level, unless you guys can. And I'm talking about a baseball player and a basketball player, or I'm talking about a legit starter in football who's also played at a high level in basketball. I think what you do is you give the kid the opportunity, and once he figures out the schedule, the difference in football shape and basketball shape, I think it'll sort itself out. But if you're LSU, both Matt McMahon and Brian Kelly, you give him absolutely the opportunity to make an attempt at it. Okay, guys, let me scroll up and get to some of your comments. If you're enjoying the show, as always, hit the like button. Please share to your social media, tweet it out, text it out to your friends. And we're going to see if we can get to as many comments and questions as we can tonight. And, of course, we're brought to you by Pride Roofing, the official roofing company of TigerBait.com, and we'll talk about them a little bit later in the show. Buck is drinking some beers. Delton Doucette with a Tiger head. Good evening, Mike. Give me the scoop on portal news for football and women's basketball and defensive line coach you were hearing about. I'll start with the last part. Defensive line coach. It is absolutely amazing how quiet things have been since the first weekend that the news broke that Jamar Cain was leaving. I mean, it has been staggeringly quiet. And I don't know that means they're hiring from within. I still don't think that they do that. Is it the same guys that we've been talking about for weeks? Bo Davis, Brumbaugh, on and on. I don't know. Is there somebody that's going to come out of the woodwork? I tell you what, as well as they've kept their cards close to the vest, it wouldn't surprise me. When I asked Brian Kelly the question about the timetable for a defensive line coach a couple of weeks ago, he said within 2 to 3 weeks. So next week would be the 3rd week. And so I tend to think they're going to have somebody after that. I still think that it's going to be a Pete Jenkins disciple. I know Matt House is close to Pete Jenkins, and he wants somebody from that defensive line coaching tree. And you also need a guy who can recruit very well at that position. Cat's out the bag this evening. Been sitting on this one for a couple of weeks, and that is that Anissa Morrow, the DePaul forward, is going to be in town for her visit, and she arrives tomorrow. And of course, she's a big timer. 26 points a game, 12 rebounds, and more. And she's a big timer. It's truly staggering what Kim Mulkey and her staff could be putting together right now. And portal news for football, I will say, I thought last week that maybe the over and under on how many LSU kids that might get in the portal, maybe 2 or 3. And now we're 4 days after the LSU spring game and nobody's gotten in the portal yet. What does that tell you? Or does someone get in at the last minute? Maybe. Maybe the odds or the math would say that it's likely. But man, you would think if someone knew they were going to be getting in the portal, they would have done it earlier in the week. But they've still got some time, but the clock is ticking. And there you go on that. Mike looking like I dare you, ha. Yeah, we do these thumbnails, and you never know what face to make. Nurse Court, hey guys, glad to have you with us, Nurse Court. Yeah. Brian Tonya, I heard Mulkey ask for a new PMAC. I love it. That was the big deal at Baylor. That was one of the issues for her when, why would she leave Baylor and come to LSU? And one of the fights she was in Waco was the new arena that, I don't even know where they're at in the process of their new arena. Is it finished? Have they started yet? I have no idea. But her big deal was she was upset that it wasn't going to be an on-campus facility. But Mulkey is the kind of person that can rattle the trees on a new PMAC. And everything I've always been told about the current PMAC is that there's no way you could cut into the roof, that anything that you would need to do in order to somehow shoehorn some suites into that facility, that the load bearing that's missing there in order to support such things, if it starts costing you 80 to 100 million to renovate the current PMAC, then you might as well just go ahead and spend 180 to 200 million on a new one. And so, but what does that mean? Does that start a domino effect? Because one of the things that I was told 2 years ago, that one of the ideas that was popular in the athletic department was moving Bernie Moore Track Stadium out, by U-High's football field, out by the softball stadium. And so then you'd have to build a new track stadium. Well, what's a new track stadium cost? You saw the one that Oregon built, Phil Knight built for them. I want to say that thing was like 60 or 80 million. Is that what LSU would want? Something that in that realm? They just redid the current track. Is that something that you can move? You need a new auditorium. And so, but anyways, it was the plan I was told, or it was that they thought was the one that a lot of people liked the most, was moving to track stadium. I don't know if that also means a new field house, but you would build a new PMAC closer to Nicholson. And then once it was finished, you would implode the current PMAC and you would turn that into a green area, kind of like the Grove in Oxford, that you could then have, Friday afternoon concerts like Live After 5 or Downtown Alive in Lafayette, Rhythms on the River in Lafayette, like a park concerts. You could sell those tailgating spots for good money. The TAF could on game day. There's a lot of things that you could do there. But man, when you start totaling all of that up, what are you talking about? 300 million in new facilities, 400 million. A lot of dough. And I will say this, obviously there's no suites in the PMAC, and I don't know, man, maybe it's just me, but There's something about that overhead shot of Tiger Stadium and seeing that PMAC there. I don't know what someone who's never seen it before thinks of it as an eyesore. I like to look at the PMAC. And when I go in the PMAC, it's clean. All the seats are new. The video scoreboards are great. Yeah, it doesn't have suites, but they got a lot of great food. I noticed for some of the sellout games I was at this past season in women's basketball, getting to the bathroom and out of there wasn't that big of a chore either. So, but everybody wants new, and you got to keep up with the Joneses, but we'll see. Hal Jubin, there's absolutely no point in spring games. I think the only point is to the biggest point is to have a big recruiting day that day. And when you have Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and just I love the idea of I would love to know whose idea it was to have Angel Reese there. That was fantastic. You know, when have you ever heard of women's basketball players being a part of the football recruiting weekend? Because she's as I mean, she's hot as gold right now. I mean, she's a marketing wonder, and a lot of those football players that came from all over loved getting their pictures taken with her just as much as Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and the others that were there. But great recruiting weekend. We've got a lot of updates on the guys that were there. I got a Catum Durham update that's going to be posted here after the show, and I've got a lot more. LSU might get 2 kids from the Felicianas. Has that ever happened? I've been covering recruiting now. I think this is my 27th year. No, it has never happened. Just heard a rumor that Haley may be committing more tomorrow. Joshua Forbes. Yeah, at how scream games mean little. Hal Jubin. Okay, let's see. I'm scrolling down here, guys. You guys are talking amongst yourselves, and all right, let me scroll down. Yeah, she brought that up at the today at the Rotary Club, and but that's not the first time she's talked about it. Good for her. Good for her. And shoot, it was being brought up when she first got hired. And when Will Wade was the coach, it was like, I know his thought was, man, let her go and he'll reap the benefits. Any new facilities that she wants for basketball, the men reap the rewards. And so she's a go-getter. She's great at raising money, great at separating donors from their checkbooks. So let her roll. Let her roll. Yes, Blaine Smith. Got to keep Acadiana defensive tackle McKinley at home. I think they are. And he's got a little brother who's a heck of a player as well. They were not a part of last Saturday's deal. I talked to the younger brother on Friday, but believe me, they're going to be making return visits. And I should have something on both of those guys here real soon. Be on the lookout on TigerBait for that. Josh Forbes, Nurse Court, heard from good sources that it's pretty much a done deal with Haley. I can't wait to see this. Mark J, hey Mike, any news on who we may be getting looking for the defensive line coach? Talked about that a little while ago. It's been awfully quiet. And before going live tonight, I text 2 sources, and one of them said something nice little quip that I laughed at, but it's amazing how quiet things are. Yes, what Mulkey and that staff is doing, Reese, Daphne, they're just all. It's fantastic what they're doing. What year was that, Chance? Julius Peppers at UNC played football and basketball. If Kim Mulkey says build it, and Clay Rivers adds they will come, exactly. She says that was one of the deals when talking to David Smoke and those guys at Sikkim 365 when the whole thing started rolling about Kim Mulkey coming to Baton Rouge. And it's always a deal, you know. I think people over there were getting exasperated because they gave her everything and she was never happy. They, you know, all the sour grapes that we got over there. But when you start saying, okay, you're going to pay her this much, and women's basketball is always in the red. But you can't factor it that way with Kim Mulkey. And I wish at some point somebody at the Tiger Athletic Foundation would divulge. Maybe now is not the time. Maybe it's a year or two from now as this continues to roll with the Mulkey era. But I think if they revealed the amount of money that Mulkey herself and the folks in North Louisiana and people who supported her at Baylor who have donated. I'm aware of multiple events, private events in different people's homes where she raises money. And you can't factor that into the ledger on the athletic department side. It's what she raises for the Tiger Athletic Foundation. And so I think, first of all, if you're going to have more nights in the PMAC, that you have, 8 to 12,000 people, and I think there's going to be many of them next year. How many more season tickets are they going to sell versus last year? It wouldn't shock me if they sell 1,500 to 2,000 more season tickets. And did they raise the price any? I hope they did. Did they raise it a couple of dollars a ticket? They can get it. And so the more that keeps rolling, to say nothing about the championship gear and everything else, the price of concessions, new TV contract being negotiated for women's basketball. They draw on a number that they did for the national championship game. How close is women's basketball at LSU? Maybe you can't do it in a lot of places, but is LSU going to be one of the schools that are one of the few schools that's getting close or can go over and it ends up being in the black at some point? I think they can do it. And especially can do it if you factor in the money that she brings into the TAF. Chris Melder, hey, Mike, glad to have you with us, Chris. Brandon Reese, imagine if Kim Mulkey gets Van Lith and Morrow. That starting five would be crazy next year. She's building a dream team. And I think with this transfer portal, her personality, her exposure, seriously, I am aware of no interviews that she turns down. She doesn't turn down interviews. She's everywhere. She doesn't get tired. Barry Barbie, it wouldn't shock me if Nick Saban tries to go after a quarterback that is not in the portal and tries to bribe him to come to Bama. I have not seen the A-Day game. I saw some highlights, but a couple people I've talked to, including an Alabama guy, a big Alabama fan that I was actually who I had lunch with on Saturday. They're nervous. They're scared to death, and they're talking about how Holstein could win that job if they don't get somebody in the portal. And I'm not saying that Holstein's bad, but man, it is a place like Alabama. You don't want true freshmen starting at quarterback. James Moore, hey, Mike, you think Coach Kelly gave us some insight during their bowl game that if Jalen can't get the ball upfield, that it won't hesitate to use Nussmeier? I think I look back to last year when there were times where in the box score, Daniels' passing percentage and his attempts to completions ratio really wasn't that good. And even in some of those cases, when the game was over, it's like, at what point did it make sense, or did it ever cross my mind that maybe he should go to Nuss? I think both quarterbacks performed well on Saturday, considering what that spring game actually was. But what happens if, Jaden Daniels ends up having a another year like last year where he goes just about the whole year without getting nicked up and doesn't have to miss much time. And, I mean, think about how durable he was for a guy who runs for as many yards. And now he's what, 15 pounds heavier, 20 pounds heavier maybe? He's in the 210 range. Does that make him more durable, or is that just the luck of the draw? But I do think, though, ideally you want Nussmeier to get a good amount of good reps this season because he is your guy for 24. And he's your guy if something happens to Jaden Daniels. Tasha Tiger, glad to have her with us. Remodel of the PMAC, not new. I've talked to someone who studied that a while back, and I need to talk to him again. But I was told a while back that when architects looked at it, the load bearing that would be necessary to basically hang suites inside the PMAC, which is what's desirable, none of that is there. And the expense to do it and to rip the roof out and basically shoehorn these things in there, I mean, you're talking tens and tens of millions of dollars. What is the price tag on that? And what the price tag might have been on it a year or two ago, what is it now with inflation, with building materials and everything? I mean, what is it? They're building a new Prairieville High School in Ascension Parish right now, and they're having to chop a bunch of things because what they wanted to do can't be done now at the price that was approved because of inflation. Yeah, I love a green air for the old PMAC. All right, guys, I'm obviously scrolling. Let me get some more comments in here. It's the behind the scenes stuff that needs to be done. The PMAC itself is fine. I agree. And as someone who grew up going to a lot of great concerts in the PMAC, that's one of the reasons why you never see concerts there anymore. All these concert tours travel with a dozen or more 18-wheelers. There's nowhere for them to park. There's nowhere for them to back up and unload all these crazy staging and things that these major tours do now. I mean, I saw the Police there on their Van Halen. I mean, we saw everybody in the PMAC. PMAC drew better concerts than the brand new, what was somewhat new, the Centroplex, now the River Center. And that's the other part of it. If you're going to do a new PMAC, that's another way to make money if you do it right, is you got to have all the loading docks and everything so that maybe you can draw some of the bigger name acts. Baton Rouge doesn't get crap for concerts anymore. They either go right past New Orleans. The Smoothie King either gets somebody really good, and then they're driving right past Baton Rouge on their way to Houston or Austin or Dallas. There you go. There you go. Okay. All right, guys, let me get this one out of the way. And of course, we're brought to you each and every week by Pride Roofing. Let's hear from Mike and Alex.
Hey, it's Michael and Alex again with Pride Roofing. Here we grow again. Did your roof get denied during Hurricane Ida?
The insurance company is playing game with you.
Don't forget, August 29th is your 2-year anniversary to make a claim.
Your neighbor got new roof, why not you?
Pay your deductible. We're fortified, certified.
We do your roof, you came on the Pride umbrella, bet on Pride.
855
Pride 16.
There you go, Mike and Alex. Give them a call, 855 Pride 16. And tell them you heard about them on TigerBait. They're going to pay for you to have TigerBait Premium free for 1 year. They're paying that bill. And that reminds me, I've got 2 guys I need to immediately get with tomorrow and get them set up for a year. And we want to thank them for calling Pride. And anywhere in South Louisiana, if you need a roof, residential, commercial, they have you covered. And so free roof inspection, they give you a quote at no cost to you. And just for that phone call and letting them come out and try and win your business, you're going to get free TigerBait Premium for a year. Cannot beat that deal. Anywhere in South Louisiana, Gulf Coast, Mississippi, and of course they're based right there in Albany, Louisiana. Owned and operated by an LSU grad, and of course his partner Alex. They're two fine people, the best in the business. Tyler Azan. Mike, I know just landed green, but what do you think our next big time recruit LSU lands? Seems like LSU is a bit on a roll at the moment. What is that? I told it up earlier. What is that? 14 commitments now? 14 with Tre'Dez Green. I'm unaware right now of somebody who's about to pop. And a lot of these guys, there's very few times where a guy just does it on a whim. A lot of this stuff's pretty much choreographed. But I will say this. If you think about the last year, what were they at last year at this point? 4, 5? Did they even have a half a dozen before May? I don't think so. And everybody was getting nervous, and they ended up at 20 by Labor Day. Maybe in 21? They were right there where they need to be. I think they're going to start rolling in at a steady clip, and by Labor Day, they're going to be right at 20 and maybe a little bit over. They are rolling. It's a very, very good class. Carl Dunn, good evening, Mike. Maybe I can move up the list with Buddy out. Yeah, well, Buddy told me to tell you if you came on in that you have now broken inside the top 40 of local officials. So there you go, Carl the Cat. Chris Scott, Mike, got to land Colin Simmons, need an elite rusher for the future. The defensive line hire is critical. Absolutely. I think the sooner they get that, the better off they're going to be with some guys. You had the kid from Arkansas last week that ended up staying home, Charleston. And I wonder how much of that was the fact that LSU didn't have Jamar Cain around anymore. Look, it's always tough to get a kid from out of state, but they were really in good shape, what I thought, with Charleston Collins. But yeah, the sooner they can get a guy on board and that guy can start forging relationships, the better off they're going to be. And Colin Simmons, of course, has been LSU many, many times. And, you've got 3 or 4 guys at Duncanville, and that school has players every single year. And the LSU staff is doing a phenomenal job with all those guys in the state of Texas right now. Todd Davis, I think LSU get their act together, provide upgrades to the present facilities, or die not trying. There's no doubt they are. And that's one thing you can never accuse Scott Woodward of is not spending money. But what is that timetable? Are we talking about a decade from now, 8 years? What is that process like to get something like that built? Because there's so many moving parts. You need a new auditorium. I mean, I don't think it's just a new PMAC. Like I said, I think it's multiple facilities that you end up trying to do all at the same time with a hefty, hefty price tag. Chance Babin, what's your thoughts on Colorado and the crazy transfer numbers? I know Deion Sanders will put a smiley face on that, but, I think some of that, if you can absorb it, and there's some guys there that aren't buying into what you're doing, that's one thing. But when you're losing guys who are look to be possibly some of your better performers and that just got there, that hit the portal, that's not good. And, Jawan decommitted. I mentioned on the show a couple of weeks ago that I said, and I didn't know anything. I just threw it out there. I said, I wonder if that's going to stick. And sure enough, he decommitted this weekend. And I got a prediction in LSU on him immediately. And look, LCA is a school in every sport. You just got Jada Richard. She'll be a senior next year, an excellent guard. I filmed her against the E.D. White in one of the early playoff games over there. Phenomenal basketball player. Whether it's softball, baseball, basketball, both boys and girls, football every year, that school always has players, and you don't want to lose any of them. And a lot of them are really good kids, that are good students as well. So there you go there. Need to move quick. How many years will Mulkey be here? She's 60. Does she coach into her 70s? I don't think so. Yeah, that's a debate we had right after the national championship. Does that accelerate her timetable? I tend to think she's kind of like Kim Mulkey. She's kind of like Nick Saban. If she's in good health and enjoying it, I think she enjoys the limelight. I think she loves the attention. I think she loves working a room. I think she loves the recruiting process. I think she loves doing interviews. She loves doing post-game press conferences. If she's in great health, I'm just amazed by her at her age, health-wise. And, I always laugh and Nurse Court's in the room and maybe some other ladies. When do you see 60-year-old women in 5-inch heels jumping up and down, squatting down in 5-inch heels the way she does on the court while she's watching her team? Like, every woman I know that's probably over 45 or 50, their knees hurt just watching her do that. And then, of course, she got off the plane the first day she got here wearing those 5-inch heels and is lifting pulmonary off the ground and on the purple carpet at the airport. You knock on wood and you wish her great health. But I think she's one of those ladies that she loves. She's no different than Nick Saban in my mind, and a lot of coaches. I think she would be miserable in retirement. I also think she would be great in doing color, being an analyst for women's basketball games. But I think that would eat her alive. She would miss it so bad. I think what she needs to do is keep progressing the way she's doing and delegating. And when you got a top assistant like Bob Starkey there and Reese and everybody else she's got on her staff, I guarantee you she's delegating more and more authority and letting things go and letting qualified people do a lot of that work, so she can breathe a bit more and take the downtime that she needs. But I don't think she needs the downtime that most of us need. She's just a self-starting, highly driven person that's at a whole other level than everybody else. Okay. Mario's crystal ball. That's exactly what Dion wanted. Most of those guys will be lucky to land another 5. Yeah, absolutely. But those there were some guys in there that could play. It play for him this year. Not necessarily going to help Colorado win a lot of football games, but you need bodies and you need depth. What's going to be the over and under on how many games he wins that first year? Scrolling up, guys. Give me a minute. I know I missed some up above. Chris Melder. What can you tell us about Colin Hurley and his game? Clearly he has just great character and a good head on his shoulder. He's absolutely a great kid. And his father is a superb guy. I met him last summer before Colin was a commitment. His dad's a retired police officer and just super people. And Colin is absolutely a leader and a fantastic quarterback. He reminds me a good bit of that certain quarterback from USC who I saw at LSU camp summer of 2019. Reminds me a lot of him. American Patriot with the super chat. Thank you, as always. Did Ben McDonald play 2 sports? He did, but very briefly. What was it, 1 year? Play for Dale Brown. Ben McDonald has got a picture of him. Me and Ben McDonald are the same age. Graduated high school the same year. And he's got a picture of him in the 7th grade at the Dale Brown LSU basketball camp. and Dale's got his arm around him. And I have that same picture. I went to that same Dale Brown basketball camp. I got to find mine. I think I look just as dorky, or probably more so than Ben did. But Ben posted his to Twitter a while back. But I was at that exact same Dale Brown basketball camp. That would probably be 80, 81, something like that. Joshua Forbes, it's Mulkey magic, baby. Man, to get Haley as a point guard with her ability to drive, shoot, and pass, man, what a threat we will be again. Yep, you grab her. Got Michaela coming in, Angel Reese, and all the rest. Del Rosario coming in. I got a chance to see her in the McDonald's game 2 or 3 Mondays back. Of course, ESPN used some of my footage of Michaela in that game. They asked me for permission. They said they were going to give me credit, and they didn't. But both those girls played very well in that game. The sky's the limit. I don't know how you pick against LSU being a favorite to win it all again next year, which that kind of talk is absolutely going to drive Kim Mulkey crazy. Todd Davis, just curious, where you from originally? Baton Rouge? Yes, I am. Born and raised in Baton Rouge, and but did live in Lafayette for 31 years. And then moved back here in 2017. Brandon Reese, I wouldn't be surprised if Kim Mulkey pulls off an almost Saban-type dynasty when it's all said and done. She has got a real opportunity. What is it? 6? Could she go 6 years? Could she go 7? And if she coaches that long, what does she win? 2? Does she win 3? I mean, if you coach somewhere for 6 or 7 years and you win 2 or 3, that's a pretty darn clip. But does it get bonkers? Look, you get upset, you get bad calls. She had a Baylor team that she's still, you could tell when she talks about it, she stews about it a couple of years ago. A girl was fouled and they didn't call it. And you just never know when something like that's going to happen to you, no matter how good of a team you've got. You got to have a little bit of luck. You got to stay healthy. And her team did stay healthy down the stretch this year. And then everything just parted, didn't it? All along the way, the teams dropped, and like I said on that Wednesday night, I said, man, it just seems like the sea's parting for LSU, ain't it? And Buddy was like, one game at a time. And then sure enough, Iowa beat South Carolina. But then when Iowa beat South Carolina, you're like, well, man, look how good that girl is, and the female Pete Maravich and all that stuff. And you were worried about how good they were, because after what South Carolina had done LSU in the regular season in Columbia. I reached out to Harlem earlier today, Huey Lipsey. Harlem Berry will be Kevin Falk quality in 25. He's absolutely special. You got 3 great running backs in Louisiana for the class of 2025. In fact, I reached out to all 3 of them today and talked to 2 of them. So we got some stuff coming on those guys. A lot of recruiting activity going to be happening. Now that spring football for LSU's over, you got spring football cranking up for high school, and we're going to be out and about with a lot of that stuff. So I'm going to put some stuff on YouTube. I'm going to have some stuff on TigerBait Premium. And so go subscribe to TigerBait. Try us out for $1. We're going to have a lot coming your way. Of course, you get breaking news text alerts, newsletters, and the whole shebang at TigerBait.com. Reese is due for a hefty raise. He is. And, I say he is. What is the going rate at his position? What's the high end? What's the low end? What's the average? And I think Gary Reese, whether he was on a men's basketball staff or a girls basketball staff, I think he can recruit anybody anywhere. And you get more than highly competitive for a guy like him. Absolutely. Just such a likable guy. High personality, always smiling, always happy. And they're all like that on that staff. And they're like that in football too. You look at J.R. Belton and Arsamon and Bobby and all those guys on the back end at LSU football and recruiting, all high personality, happy-go-lucky people. And those are the kind of people you got to have out front greeting your recruits and talking to them when they come into your program for a visit. All right, guys, it's that time of the show where I really want to talk about one of our big show sponsors, Alumni Hall. If you want to show your LSU Tiger pride, Alumni Hall is your ultimate shopping experience. The best and largest selection of apparel for the whole family. Nike, Nike Golf, Champion, Columbia, Peter Millar, Southern Tide, hats, Yeti gifts, and accessories. LSU students, faculty, and military receive 10% off in-store every day, and you can earn cash back with their Hall Pass rewards. Alumni Hall, located in Perkins Row, or anytime at alumnihall.com. Alumni Hall, where Tiger fans shop. In addition, we can tout the support you. In addition, they've got all the new Nike gear that are going to be coming in stock. They're adding them every day for the upcoming football season. They've got all the national championship gear for women's basketball, and they're constantly adding new LSU baseball T-shirts with either throwback logos, those weathered looks, and they've got a 2 for $35 T-shirt special over there. And if you order anything online, you can pick up in store. They have the option to pick up in store, which, you know, they've got competitors out there that ship you stuff from Connecticut. If there's something you buy with an LSU logo on it, it's shipping from the Baton Rouge store. And of course, they're right there in Perkins Row. Go there and see them. That store in Perkins Row is packed to the gills with LSU gear, and a lot of it's the really good stuff. Your high-end gear that is highly coveted. A lot of that stuff, particularly the Peter Millar, the Cutter and Buck, the high-end polo shirts that you buy and you take care of, they'll last you forever if you don't put them in the dryer. They've got all that stuff over there, and a great store, a brick and mortar. Support your local brick and mortar in this age of buying everything on Amazon. Go over there. You can touch it and feel it and try it on, and tell them you heard about them right here on TigerBait.com. All right, guys, let me scroll in and get to some more of these. Man, I don't know how many more years we think Starkey was. He's not going anywhere. He'll be here as long as Kim Mulkey wants him. And another one is as long as he's in good health. They've told the story over and over again about how he had just gotten to Auburn and he came calling, and Kim Mulkey came calling, and that was it. And how about that? He gets a national championship in his first year. Happy for him. Matt McMahon is awfully quiet, says Turd Ferguson. I think they've got some stuff coming. Hold tight. Kim Mulkey signed an 8-year deal. Josh Forge, they get more. You add another 25. You guys are really hitting the basketball, girls basketball, women's basketball recruiting tonight. Women's basketball transfer portal. All right, I'm scrolling up and hitting some of these all over again. No coach coming into spring practice with 63 scholarship wants to lose 23 players. Exactly. He is the contract whisperer. You think he's crazy with the initial dollar amount, and by year 3, it looks like a deal. Mike, what do you think if Jasmine doesn't get hot and hit all those threes? No, they don't. They won a national championship thanks to her and Poa and the others that came off the bench and did what they did. When you had all those girls in foul trouble sitting on the bench, you just hoped that you could somehow not let Iowa damage it too bad and you wouldn't be behind too much at halftime. And then they create a lead that they did with 3 starters on the bench. That was crazy. And Jasmine will be a forever. I mean, that's she's set for life with that one. And good for her. I mean, that's what you got to have to win championships. You got to have people that come out of nowhere and do something that they haven't done. I mean, she had some big games here and there throughout the season, but she'd also go stretches where she wouldn't, her shot wouldn't be falling, and she was always a bit of a liability defensively, or more than a bit defensively. Yeah, you don't win a national championship without her and the other non-starters coming in and doing what they did in that one. I remember that court. Appreciate what he did with Jimbo more than well. Yeah, that's one of the conspiracy theories that they've been floating in College Station for the last 6 or 8 months, was that Woodward purposely saddled them with such a huge contract with Jimbo, knowing that he couldn't coach and that he wouldn't win anything that mattered, and knowing that one day he'd be back at LSU and it would set him up. I'm telling you, there's a group of them over there that believe that. It gets posted, and they're over there wondering if 8 wins is possible, and if that's acceptable in year 6 over there. I think LSU wears them out in the last game at home next season. Whatever that line is for that one, give the points. Markie the Therapist, I can't wait for that FSU game in the fall. I think it sets the tone for the season. Absolutely. It absolutely does. You know, we sit here and we look at Saturday and obviously there's still a question at corner. Need to get a bunch of people healthy, obviously. But one by one, every one of those guys who didn't participate in spring are going to be written in ink, and they're going to be healthy. Running backs, defensive linemen, they'll all be back. But I'm leaning towards a 10-2, predicting a 10-win season for LSU. I was at 8-4 last year. 10-2, and if you win that first game, and you stay healthy, I like what Brian Kelly said on Saturday about not his program isn't to where he could withstand 2 or 3 starters being lost to injury. And I like how transparent he is when he talks like that and saying those things, because it's true. And so once everybody's there, once the roster's set and it's mid-August and they're starting classes, what's going to be the total number on that roster? Is he even anywhere near 85? I don't think so. And I don't think he's going to go out and sign a bunch of kids just to fill up spots. If they can't, if he sees something in the portal that can help him and give him some quality depth, they'll move on it. But I like the fact that in every one of these transfer portal periods since he's gotten to Baton Rouge and 2 classes of high school recruits, he's not oversigning and taking kids that he don't think that can play here. And he's being very, very methodical with it. Yeah, when are we going to find this out? I think there's going to be a lot of news coming out about that scheduling. Is it something that they got a pretty darn good idea about right now, and they're going to unload it on everybody that at the SEC meetings in Destin next month? And get a bunch of people upset? Is that how it's going to roll? I don't know. Or is there going to be a lot of people wanting a lot more input in those meetings? I'm wondering if Sankey's already got an idea and he wants to unload his plan next month and see what the reaction is going to be. But 9 games and who are the 3 and but I don't think A&M is going to be paired with those that you just listed. I think LSU is going to be paired with LSU, and what LSU would also have Ole Miss and Mississippi State, I think. But A&M's going to have Texas. I have a funny feeling we won't get Bama because of Saban whining last month. How many LSU fans and how many Alabama fans would be upset if that game goes away every year? I think a lot of people would, believe it or not. And I say that because you're a year or two away from the playoff expanding to 12 teams. And so you're going to have two and maybe even 3 loss SEC teams that have an opportunity to be in the playoffs when it expands to 12. And that LSU Alabama game, even when Alabama's won more than a few straight, is still the pinnacle game of the year. And I don't care what they say about the Iron Bowl. That's always going to be there. But this is the one. But I'm of the mindset that the SEC championship game needs to go away. You're going to play a 9-game SEC schedule. Why do you need an SEC championship game? And they'll never get rid of that. But I would be okay with it getting lost. Markie the Therapist, if the PMAC gets replaced, where will we play during the construction? I think the idea has been if it gets replaced that they would build an arena on the side of it and then implode it when the new one's ready. But that, again, requires a new Bernie Moore. You can talk about a new PMAC. I think if they could ideally do what they want to do, Bernie Moore and maybe the auditorium, and that field house is not up to snuff either. What would a new field house cost that would be up to the standards for the track? I mean, Shaver could be the guy that really comes out in all this. He could be getting a new indoor track facility and a new Bernie Moore. So, but that's, man, you're talking about $500 million. There you go. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Please, if you enjoyed the show, hit the like button. Go subscribe to TigerBait. If you're not already subscribed to our YouTube channel, hit the subscribe button, notification bell. Thank you all for tuning in. We'll be back here next week, and tune in to TigerBait tomorrow. A lot of stuff coming your way. All right, guys. Good night.